what has changed fundamentally is that it's become very transactional now. What I appreciated at that point of time was that it was relationship based and people actually cared. Now it's that the emotional, the empathetic part, we've lost it. If anybody tells me, oh, it's still existing, I'll call it bullshit because it doesn't exist anymore. It's purely number driven. What can you do for me? Then I will do it for you. It's that kind of a thing. Do people still know what we do? I don't think so. Will they ever come to know the whole thing that we do? I don't think so. But it's just that they know that we move more than vaccines now. People knew about it, that something was going to go wrong. Did they know to the extent to which it was going to be this bad? No, nobody really thought about it. Did people know that there was one person was eccentric and that, his decisions were going to affect? We were seeing it in that country. There are ripples everywhere. You don't need to have a tsunami come to you for your part of the world's ocean bed to be affected. And if you don't realize that, that's your fallacy.
Hi, hello, namaste, and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Logistics Pe Charcha. I am Prajakta Karnik, editor of Logistics Outlook magazine, and today we have with us a young and dynamic second generation logistician. And this is a special podcast for me because we are having the first woman logistician in our studio today. We have with us Chaitali Mehta. Chaitali is the director at EKF Global Logistics. Welcome, Chaitali, to our studio.
Thank you, Prajakta. Thank you for having me.
Okay, just to start with, I would like to understand a little bit about you and, why did you get into this sector? What was the driving force and about EKF?
I think I'll do the second part first. EKF is a family business. It was started by 6 families, including my family, in 1977. So we complete 50 years next year. And I joined the business, and it's run by my father, Harish Bhai, on behalf of all the families. And I joined the company straight out of college. We've been around for a while. I'm very proud of the fact that we are an MSME, and it comes from a good place because I believe that the SMEs and MSMEs are a dying breed in this industry, and everybody is chasing figures and numbers. So somewhere at the core, we are losing the essence of who we are supposed to be. So having said that, my entry here was completely accidental. So I had bad marks and I was sulking, and my parents were worried that I wouldn't amount to doing anything whatsoever. So on a lark, I think my dad must have said that just come, join. And I don't think any one of us actually thought that I would stick around so long, or that I would pick up, and that cargo would accept me so much. And so it was a surprise for everyone. But yeah, starting off from my first day, 12 hours on a bar stool, and today I've been here for 29 years. So I also complete 30 years next October. And so I've actually grown up in this industry. I learned my letter writing over here.
How have you seen the sector evolving? I mean, now that you mentioned that you'll be completing 30 years into this industry, how are you analyzing that? How have you seen that change?
It's funny that you ask me this, because when I meet people from the past, we don't land up meeting very often. We are, reminiscing of what it used to be. And at that time, if somebody had asked me at that Chaitali that, what do you think? And I would have said, oh, it's bad then. But it's so different now. I think we've definitely grown. We've definitely prospered as an industry. We are kinda getting our dues, if not fully. I would say that initially we used to get crumbs, but now we are actually being offered a share. So if you're looking at it from a kid analogy, for somebody who would look in from the outside into the inside and was treated as an outsider, which is what this industry was treated as, we are actually being invited to sit on their tables, which for me is a massive, massive thing. The associations are being invited to come on board as think tanks, as problem solvers, which happened at a very minuscule stage or at a very minuscule level in the initial years. In terms of how much, what I what has changed fundamentally is that it's become very transactional now. What I appreciated at that point of time was that it was relationship based and people actually cared. So your vendors, your stakeholders, your partners, whether it was the airlines or your transporter, whoever it was, everybody genuinely cared for each other. So now it's that the emotional, the empathetic part, we've lost it. If anybody tells me, oh, it's still existing, I'll call it bullshit because it doesn't exist anymore. It's purely number driven. What can you do for me? Then I will do it for you. It's that kind of a thing. But besides that, we can't forget or we cannot ignore the fact that we've gone completely electronic. No matter what people say, unless you haven't worked with more than 25 countries in the world and you don't know how their customs works, we can't say that India sucks because there are certain things that happen phenomenally well here that don't happen overseas. And if things go bad here, then the things go bad over there also. It's just that you may not be aware of that point from the fact from that the clearances are getting delayed and all. If your shipments don't get delayed, so you are under the perception that everything is hunky-dory in the West, and it's not actually like that. What has also changed is the connection, the connectivity, the closeness that now we share with the customs, that we share with the stakeholders, and it's fabulous. We have the development or the outreach that we now have vis-a-vis that with the customs, courtesy of that, or with the government is fabulous. I think it's at a peak time and it's just so enriching to see. Also, the other thing which has, and it would be wrong on my part if I didn't mention it, is the participation of women. Like there was a point where I would be the only woman and the youngest of the lot in terms of the people who were there. And today we have so many women. In fact, sometimes at certain places it's more women and less men. And there has been a very systematic approach for it. Of course, the government has to be credited because they decided that, oh, we needed women at everywhere. But people have accepted, and we've always been a very safe industry for women. So things have changed, and some things have changed for the worst, but a lot of things have changed for the good. And I am so proud and so happy that the industry is getting its due right now. The basis came wrong because of COVID, but from considering, this, I compare that, rather awareness of the logistics industry for the world, like how a Soboite discovers suburb for the first time, or decides to travel by bus for the first time, or by train for the first time. So yeah, it was definitely a eureka moment. Do people still know what we do? I don't think so. Will they ever come to know the whole thing that we do? I don't think so. But it's just that they know that we move more than vaccines now. And at every level, people are realizing that logistics it's now no longer a hidden web, because we are everywhere, from your watch to the shoes that we wear, to the cameras that you have, to the lights that you have. There is logistics in every single aspect of our lives.
I was talking to a very senior logistics leader, and he mentioned that there was a time when logistics is basically a word of mouth game. So there was a time when he had suffered a lot of losses, and that's when his connection with the stakeholders literally helped him, and he could take off his business. So yeah, I think so. That's what you mentioned, but it still continues to be unorganized.
No. We are very organized, actually. We are very organized. Certain verticals may be unorganized, or they could be, I would say, fractured, or there could be, tiny little pieces like a jigsaw puzzle that will come together. But we're not an unorganized industry.
How has this, after COVID, as you mentioned,
yes,
things have changed completely.
Yes.
And now with these disruptions, how have you seen it changing, evolving even more? And Mr. Trump making all the games.
I anyway think I'm not getting a visa. If I'm going to talk more on him and what he is doing to us, then for sure, till for the next 20 years, I will not land up going there. but I will. So the thing is that we are living in very uncertain times, okay? It's like you think that a volcano is going to come and you are prepared for it, but you realize that the volcano is not coming from this mountain, it's coming from a mountain that you didn't anticipate at all. Similarly, it is like you are anticipating that there is going to be a problem, but it just doesn't come from sources that are known to you. It just comes from somewhere that you were not ready for. Did anybody see this company coming? I don't think so. See, people love talking politics, and you have fights on WhatsApp groups, and everybody has this, oh, my government, and I am right, and my ideology is right, whereas everybody is wrong because nobody does in-depth research on what one person or one government is. People wear blinkers when it comes to politics, either your way or my way. But it's not like that, because one decision is affecting millions of people. And religion, caste, creed, sex don't come in the way at all. So if you're going to look at it neutrally, then people knew about it, that something was going to go wrong. Did they know to the extent to which it was going to be this bad? No, nobody really thought about it. Did people know that there was one person was eccentric and that, his decisions were going to affect? We were seeing it in that country. But like everything else, they said, how is it going to affect us? We are far away. What they don't realize is that there are ripples everywhere. You don't need to have a tsunami come to you for your part of the world's ocean bed to be affected. And if you don't realize that, that's your fallacy and that's your problem, that it is not happening. Could this have been avoided? Who would have done it? Everybody had a choice. Everybody willingly kept quiet about it and said it will go away. But there are certain things that you can't wipe under the carpet and say if we don't look at it, it's going to get ignored. Now everybody is crying and getting angry and all. When you had a choice, you chose to ignore it or you chose to keep quiet about it. That makes you equally complicit and guilty about the whole thing.
When Trump came up with reciprocal tariffs,
Yes.
so that was one shock that you all
Yes.
had. So was the entire sector preparing? Okay, because one day he will say
Yes.
that I'm imposing
Correct.
one number, next day he's
Yes.
changing his plans.
Correct.
So how was that time changing?
Terrible, because shippers didn't know whether they should ship. Buyers didn't know at what rate were they going to get their products. Shippers had hedged. What do you do with so much of inventory? Like, I don't know why people are not talking about the losses that the textile industry or the garment industry has suffered, because overnight that industry stopped. Orders collapsed. I mean, whatever you had manufactured, if you were lucky to ship them out before your deadline, it's fine. But there were certain garments that just could not bear the air freight cost. You had to ship them by ocean. And it's going to take that much time longer because, now with courtesy of everything, your transit times have gone up. Initially, because of sustainability and environment and all, they were doing the slow steaming and all of that. So the transit times were increasing. And then you had all of this. So it was a terrible thing. Everybody has been impacted. There is not one person in the supply chain, from procuring of the raw material to actually shipping it out and delivering it to the consignees, and not one person in that supply chain has not been affected. The transporter, because if your goods are not going, you're not going to get the business. So obviously your trucks are lying idle. The laborers, because nobody really thinks about these smaller people. You only look at the bigger things, what is visible, but you're not going to look at the smaller specks. And the smaller specks combined together are creating an entire wheel. It's not just the big guys who do it. Overnight, everything went for a toss. Your space went, aircrafts were going empty. There were no, your containers were not going, because who was going to do it? You don't have those kind of orders anymore. We didn't have business because shippers had to cancel the orders, and if they were lucky, they could just ship it out. So there was like an artificial momentum that was created, and people said, oh, there's cargo, but there's no. It's the rush to send your cargo. It's the same thing at the destination. So yeah, the whims and fancies of one person almost collapsed so many industries and sub-industries, right?
But in our manufacturing sector, most is the share, the contribution is of MSMEs. in that sense, when they are impacted, then who takes the burden of it? And obviously, everyone is going to look at the freight forwarders.
Yes, it is. Like the MSME and the SMEs, people start their manufacturing business, or we have a growing, healthy bunch of merchant exporters who are getting in. Everybody wants to export but doesn't want to get into the hassle of manufacturing, so will outsource the thing. But they people have put their jewelry on mortgage, parents, homes, lands, everything. And then one fine day, all of it just crumbles or goes because you're not in a position to deliver for so many other reasons, or your orders are getting cancelled. What are you going to do with all the inventory which is there, right? And it's just not us, it's just that certain people will have the buying power, but a lot of people's buying power has reduced. Fine, if you notice, and if people will say, oh, people are buying, we are doing well, e-commerce is doing well, but you see the segment, the price range which is doing well. The rich are always going to buy because they have backups, they have multiple companies, multiple sources of income and all. But the single households or the double households, if they were spending $5,000, they will spend the money, but not the 5,000 anymore. They are going to look at 1,000, 1,200.
How big was the Middle East for us, and now with the airspace closure, Strait is closed? How is that impacting the entire, not just the
It is,
the
it is.
manufacturing, but also
It is.
freight
We are
forwarders?
dependent on the Middle East. Somewhere down the line, they have become probably more important to us than what our national carriers have become, because they carry huge loads of cargo, and those gateways are very, very important. And a lot of us feel that India has missed its calling in becoming a transshipment hub as powerful as what Dubai is, or Singapore is, or what Colombo was. And we had opportunities, but powers to be just chose not to look at it from that point of view. Bureaucracy, red tapeism, paperwork, whatever way you call it. And we are dependent, because today, when they have come down to one flight a day from India and their other parts of the world, vis-a-vis their unlimited flights coming into the country, it is a power shift, isn't it? It's like we're not giving priority. Or look, I have nothing against the Middle East carriers, or whether it's a shipping line or it's an airline, is because I use them ourselves for our own business. But having said that, the kind of loyalty that the Germans have for everything that is made in Germany, the kind of loyalty that the Japanese have. But I think when we have to talk about loyalty for the product, for the goods, services, nothing beats a German, because a German buyer will say, I don't care what happens, my goods need to come on my carrier. We don't have that kind of a reciprocal thing for our carriers. So, we are overly dependent, and we need to look at our contracts, we need to look at it, and we need to find a way of how to offset that balance as to how it is, because it's not fair. It's not fair. You need to have an equal playing field for everybody, whether it's your stakeholders, whether it is the custodians of your cargo, whether it is for your transport, anybody that you say. I believe, and I think it's a growing voice, if I say so, is that people say that if you're going to have just one or two players, it is monopolistic. So if you don't have 4 or 5 players, and you don't give us an equal playing field and an equal choice to choose from, not only are you promoting and propagating monopoly, you are also taking away our choices. So it's no longer a democratic free industry to work in. We are heavily dependent on this, like the shipping lines buying each other out. Ultimately, we are just left with 5 or 6 of them, because the smaller ones have been gobbled up, and it's not healthy for the industry. And everybody is seeing it now that it's not healthy. Therefore, there is such a strong voice and a growing voice stating that we need to have our own carrier. And it's high time that our Indian companies, airlines, get their own freighters. Because freighters, if you don't have, then you are not going to be able to capture the market. And something like this that happens, you are going to lose. And it has changed, and People are realizing, some may be vocal about it, a lot of them may not be vocal about it, but sooner or later the government will have to revise its policy to make it more India centric.
Are we still lagging behind in that? Which I think so. Probably we should have done 20 years ago. That we have.
I think
We
we are
started,
late.
but at least we started.
I consider India's growth like a late bloomer, that it's taken its while. In certain sectors, we are seeing tremendous growth and it's kind of reaching its potential. But in a lot of sectors, we are late bloomers and we still need to do a lot to catch up with. I'm not going to just say it's one person's fault or five people's fault. It's just a collective thing that unless there is no fire, we don't seem to see the rush for wanting to change the status quo of a lot of things. And therefore, we are like, chalo chalta hai to chalne do. Unless and until we don't monetarily stand to lose, a lot of things in this country don't really move.
How far are we just going to depend on the government for this, because the private sector is also sometimes not ready to
Of course, absolutely.
pump in that much
Of
amount.
course, absolutely. So that's where I said, no, that if we don't want to do R&D, we don't want to invest, we don't look at it as an investment, we are looking at it as an expense. But the fact is that it's not just the government, it's us, right? It's our mindset also. Everything matters. So every time when people say, "Arey, government ne ye nahi kiya, government any high nahi kiya," but why just the government? You have a choice, right? You have a choice whether you want to take A, B, and C. You take a shortcut. Your shortcut works. Then why are you blaming the government? Because if there is somebody who's taking it, then there is somebody who's offering it also, right?
Correct.
So you don't offer. In order for you to finish your work, you want to take shortcuts and then you want to blame everybody else but yourself. How does that work? That is like, a shipper saying, you didn't tell me this, you didn't tell me about this document, you didn't show me, you didn't tell me about this price, you didn't tell me this. But as a shipper, don't you have a responsibility to yourself and to your company to know what are the rules and regulations? Do you know the number of shipments that get stuck for imports or exports is because the shippers and importers haven't done their homework? Why are you 5,000% dependent on consultants or freight forwarders or customs brokers? Shouldn't you do your own homework? When you are traveling, you want to blame everybody but yourself, then how does it work?
But that's the kind of Indian mentality that we have, because at the end they will be telling their board, okay, we are not at mistake, we did not do it, it's the freight forwarders who did not give
or
us
it's
the
the
information.
custom broker who's not done it, or it's the shipping line, or it's the airline, or it is the transporter. But bhai, you are supposed to know your job, right? When it comes to changing contracts and when it comes to changing a freight forwarder or a customs broker, that time you are knowledgeable. That time you go and tell your management, oh, I will save you this money, I will save you this money, I will do this, I will do that. Then why aren't you using that knowledge in finding out what you are supposed to do, correct? Instead of having your shipments get stuck in a country because you don't have your license or because you are importing something without knowing what the rule of that country is, whose fault is that? It's not the government's fault. It's not that country's fault. People always tell me, oh, Chaitali, your country has too much of documentation. I said, have you seen XYZ country? Do you know what all is required there? Australia doesn't allow Indian food products to go in. Oh, that's because your quality is bad. I said, really? Our quality is bad? The whole world will eat. They will not. So does that mean that, either they have very high standards that we are not in a position to do, but does that also mean that the countries where we are exporting to, considering we are one of the biggest exporters, they don't have standards? So it's a different way of looking at it. The perspective has to change, right? You are importing machinery. How do you not know whether BIS is applicable or not? And then you say, is there a way out? Why should there be a way out?
Crude prices, the oil prices have risen, and thanks to the closure of Strait of Hormuz. How is that going to impact, the oil prices, the ATF, and
everything? The rates just go up. Look at your airfares. Traveling now, whether you're traveling abroad or you're traveling within India, is an absolute killer. It pinches when you have to travel and you are paying prices which are inflated only because oil and gas is so expensive. The freight rates have gone up. The shipping lines insurance has been cut, which I think is completely unfair and uncalled for, because the seafarers deserve to be protected. When the prices go up, everything goes, right?
Correct.
You're taking longer to reach. Your transit is going longer, so you need that much more fuel to go. Your lives of the people on board, so you're going to get security. You're going to get security for them. Their insurances have gone up. So you have to do, at the end of the day, everything has a cost which is going up. And who's going to pay for it? It is going to be either the exporter or it is going to be the importer. But it doesn't come to them directly. There are mediums, and the mediums are, at the end of the day, either the customs broker or the freight forwarder who's done the booking. The airlines have increased the prices. Today, as human beings, we will voice and say, okay, fine, the rates are very high, so we may not fly, we may not fly on this flight. We will choose a flight which is 2 hours later. But that's our conscious call. Cargo is inanimate. We have to take decisions for them. So if the client says, I want my cargo there tomorrow, you have to give them whatever are the options which are available, right? So even for the airlines, if the fuel is going and if they're procuring more fuel, who is at the end of the day going to pay for it? It's going to be the consumer, no? I should not be saying this, but the tariffs. The tariffs were created why? Because the economy of one country needed to be benefited.
Correct.
Did that economy benefit? No. Because they paid money on the higher tariffs. We were shipping out, in the manufacturers, exporters were shipping at whatever prices they had sold to importers of that country. But who was paying it? Because the importers were buying at a higher price because of the tariff, but were they absorbing the cost, or were they passing it down to the final buyers? Obviously, it is the final buyers. If not for one shipment, your next consignment will go to the final buyers. Who actually bears the cost? Infrastructure, it comes from our pockets. Whether we are taxed, our money goes, everything is from us. Who and which company ever pays for it themselves, or the government, or as a matter of fact, anybody? So obviously, it is going to come from our pockets. The war. Where is the equipment for the war coming from? This is a question that everybody is asking. The Americans themselves are asking that we are funding the war that we don't want, because it's their taxpayers' money which is going, right? So you are killing healthcare. You are increasing the prices to an extent that people have to choose between whether to buy insulin because there are so many diabetics, or they pay their mortgage. When they choose mortgage, they die. Nobody looks to see, because these news don't make news anymore. They don't do it anymore. And then you have taken away their whatever their social aids and everything is. The very people who fought for your country now have nothing available for them, and you are giving it away to your military. It's coming at a cost, right? So what is important? The lives of your people are important, and that is why I say that I'm so proud to be an Indian. Right decisions, wrong decisions, neutral decisions. The government is not doing it at our expense. Maybe certain things at our expense, but when it fundamentally boils down to things like this, it's not coming at our expense. So we have stability, we have shipments going. The volumes may have dropped, we could ebb up and down and things like that, but we are making money. So if there are 10 things going wrong, you have 3 things going positive, and those 3 things going positive are much more important because they are not going positive for the rest of the world as to what the impact is. And yes, things have gone ridiculously high, and they will, because your fuel is becoming so expensive. But does that stop people from buying cars? People are still traveling, flights are still going full. I just did a web check-in for one of my flights.
I think so. That's the kind of stand that we have taken, probably being silent, being friendly with other nations. At least we are to some extent secured, though. I mean, that could be one of the, because what we were discussing sometime back, probably that's the kind of stand that we have taken to at least keep us moving.
Yes. I may not agree with all the judgments and all the stands, but
taking a stand, still being neutral.
Yes. I don't run a government. I'm not in the government, so I don't know how much papad billowing they have to do every single day, and how many crises that never come to us. Like the customer or a consumer is never going to know the kind of crisis we have gone through in order to make sure that the shipment has reached on time, or is, it's on its way. The same way we as people of a nation are never going to know the crisis that the
Correct.
government
The
does.
management that they have to do.
They have to do it and all. So like we get criticized for the choices that we make in terms of the service and the deliverables. We criticize in turn the powers to be because we may not be happy. And I may not be happy with all the decisions, but I definitely know that today, if we are in a position to run a company, if we are in a position to make arrangements and get the goods out or get the goods in, definitely the government plays a very important part. No?
Absolutely.
So yeah, they are not India centric, and we don't have proper bilaterals. I mean, we don't have those kind of bilaterals that have been signed. But we also have to look at the plus side, that we at least have aircrafts flying in, we have airlines flying in, and new airlines coming in, even in today's times, where you still have new airlines wanting to enter the Indian market, which I think says more, and we need more airlines, right?
At least no country has taken a stand, okay, we will not allow India.
Yes,
At
that
least
is more
India
important.
is something that
Yes.
people are actually looking
Yes, and I think that speaks volumes of us as a country. People can hate it, but that's the reality.
for. True.
And the foreigners realize it as to how important it is, and how important we as a country and our contribution to the global economy is.
Actually.
And it's something that deserves a round of applause.
So the logistics cost that we are seeing now, considering all these factors, it continues to look at a higher side, probably at least for the next few years. Is that so?
Look, the logistics cost in the Indian logistics is a very touchy topic. People don't understand when they made the figures and they said, Indian logistics, yes, yeah, that 14% got, it's like
The
stuck
magic
in.
figure.
Yeah, the magic figure. I don't know where they've got it from, because we've had companies who've actually worked out the cost, and we were not more than 8% or 9%. And out of that also, ours was like at 1%. Everything else was everybody else's cost. So right now also, for everybody who says that our Indian logistics cost is in double digits and all, please do the math here, do the working to see how much each stakeholder is charging, and you see where we fall into the picture. Every time the blame cannot be put on a customs broker or on a freight forwarder. It's not like that halka naam hawaldar kind of a thing, ke nahi chalo de diya kind of a thing. You have to actually do it, get the right figures going, and then you will see where our costs are. Our costs are negligible. What is our 2,500 rupees agency charges versus the freight cost, which is at $5,000 and $8,000 a container, or 1,200 rupees a kilo for air freight? Where does the 2,500 make it? We are a blip in the entire costing. So I don't agree with it. The cost is high because everybody has high cost. You get insurance companies to do it. You get oil and your gas and petrol and all at regular prices. However you are doing it, tell the companies not to increase the cost of the gas and petrol. If you can do it, automatically you will see everything stabilize. See, you can't just hold two stakeholders responsible and say everybody else goes scot-free. Yeah. That's not possible. But yeah, till things don't settle, it's going to be expensive to ship out.
How far has AI, technology, etc., actually, helped reshape or remold the entire industry? And is it actually helping, at least in these times?
I'm the wrong person to ask about AI and tech. We have a lot of new software which has come in, which is making life easy for the documentation people, where it reads the invoice and packing list. So when you have items which are more than 40, 50, you don't have to use the traditional method of inputting it into the system. So your boys don't have to sit that much longer, and it can be done. There is a lot of AI which is being used in the warehouse. There are robotic things that are being used now. Your just-in-time deliveries are becoming easier. There is tech which is being used to make life simpler. It's not everything is affordable. Not everything is easy to understand. And here, before people come and hate me and say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, my perspective. I am not a technical person. So for me, if I have to read a set of instructions, if I understand in the first go, it is easy for me. If I do not understand in the first go, it is difficult for me. And I'm going to tell everybody that no, this tech is difficult. I'm not generalizing it, but I'm also saying that 50% of the people are not tech savvy. So if you are going to create tech that even an average person will understand and will be able to execute that. So it for me it is that simple. Having said that, there is a lot of stuff, Prajakta. Yeah, there is tech that is coming in, apps that are making life simpler, apps that is making management, it's easier for the management to check what is happening, keeping the
Real-time
cost, yeah,
visibility.
the real time visibility of not just cargo but of the people, and also reducing the costs in certain aspects because it's there, and people are always going to be there in the logistics industry. I don't think we are ever going to be a tech driven where everything is technology, and it may happen in the western world but I don't think it will happen in India at least, or even in certain parts of the maybe not in Asia too, because we are just too people oriented and we are too people dependent. So even if you need to have tech, you still need to have somebody learn that tech and somebody execute that tech and all. So, and honestly, this industry clicks because of the people, the relationship. Like you don't there was a point where there was a time where I didn't speak to people, as in like I never met people for years, but we were still would consider each other damn good friends, that they would go out of the way to help me, I would go out of the way to help them, and I'm talking all stakeholders, even without meeting each other, because relationships were made like that. Technology doesn't make relationships, it's very cold hearted. So even if you're going to get robots and you're going to get, I don't know, or those different pods and things like that, it's not going to be a substitute for human interaction.
It's just going to be an enabler.
Yeah, please. The live example of that are those chatbots.
Next, 4-5 years, how do you see supply chains changing, being impacted more? How do you foresee
Survival. We will thrive if we survive, if we diversify. Can't be dependent on one source of income anymore. You have to have two sources of income, bare minimum, even if it is from the same industry, especially for the MSMEs, the mom and pops and the MSMEs. Can't be possible not to do it. So I think we've fundamentally changed the way we do business, and it's just going to further change, and we'll have to adapt to what it is, and it's going to take a while to recover from the losses of the current thing. And
Will there be consolidations happening in this?
there are already how many more consolidations will happen, then it's just going to be monopoly everywhere. Look what's happening in the ocean world. You just have 5 shipping lines, 6 shipping lines, everything else has been bought over. Ask those players ask the employees of the shipping lines who sold those shipping lines to the big companies, what do they think about it? They're not going to be happy because there's no identity.
Correct.
You're just dependent on 5 big people. Imagine if you had to do that for your airfare. Like people are cribbing, we don't have a choice between Air India and Indigo, and there is a problem here. So imagine if there were only 5 airlines in the world or 10 airlines in the world for 180 countries, how are you going to work? Consolidation is good. You would have a lot of freight forwarders buying out other freight forwarders, or customs brokers buying out other customs brokers. And it's fine if you don't have a second generation, third generation running it, you have finance problems and things like that. It's always better that you sell your company with your own hands than letting it die the way, a couple of companies have. But it's always nice. But the main thing for me, and I don't know how many people will agree, not that it bothers me if they don't agree with me, but for me, the way I see the industry is working, it's all going to be about survival. And it is going to be about somebody who's thinking out of the box, somebody who's positioned correctly, priced correctly, and who's there when the opportunity presents itself. If you miss that opportunity, you might just miss that little particular profit that you might make at that point of time, kind of a thing. But it's going to be resilience. So it's like not boot camp, but it's going to be, how they do resistant training, you will have to do something similar like that in the industry. We could have an amazing future, but it all depends upon the geopolitical situation, right? And geopolitical situation, nobody is going to be able to predict what's going to happen. I mean, even if you put a bet on it and say, okay, tomorrow this country is going to be bombed and that country is going to be bombed, after that what? You know how many markets we've lost in the last 10 years because of the geopolitical situation? Completely gone. Nobody sits to ask the exporter, what are you doing to recover? Because the losses from losing that market, how are you going to get it back?
Absolutely.
Currency is different. Buying price, selling price to that market was different. Requirement of those goods in that market was different. How many countries have gone? And how are they going to come back? No. And how many countries are there that you can just keep? I did say in my earlier part that we don't consider R&D and travel and things like that. But genuinely speaking, there are so many problems in every single country. Every single country has its own set of issues and things like that. Even if you're going to expand, how is it physically possible for a small company to keep going everywhere? And it's with great difficulty that you get your market. If you're a pharma company, you have to get your products registered. It doesn't come cheap, right? So like when I talk to my clients and I say, don't you want to expand? And they said, Karu chhe Chaitali Ben. But we can't keep registering our products everywhere. The manufacturers who are selling to the merchant exporters, they say we are not interested in registering our products at 50 different in 50 different countries. We are happy with the business we are getting for 10 countries. But what if that out of those 10 countries, 2 countries just stop overnight?
Correct.
Then what is going to happen to your market share? So if you start off slowly, then, I always say this, that we are hungry. The more clients we have, the less it is. So we need to keep having new clients. But it's just so difficult onboarding new clients also, no? So there is it can be a beautiful 4-5 years and a beautiful future, or it could be miserable. It is dependent on a lot of things. But I'm sure, speaking on behalf of the fraternity, everybody is trying their best to not just survive, but to also thrive, because we all deserve a little bit of a silver lining, no, at the end of the day, because we work so hard.
And for EKF, what is in line or in store for that? What are the expansion plans that you are looking at, or is it survive again?
So for us, thankfully, we are not at the survival stage. By good blessings of God, we are not at the survival stage, but But I'm not going to say that we are thriving. That would be fake of me to say that. But we are growing slowly and steadily. Am I happy with the slow and steady? Maybe not. I mean, some days I'll be very happy and relieved. Some days I'll be very frustrated with at the rate at which we are growing. Idea is to do quality business. I did want to run after the figures, but I realized that that's not what I want to do at the end of the day, because it's going to essentially take a core away from what we represent and what we stand for. And I don't think I am ready to let go of that core. So while I want us to grow, and we are growing, I also have to be realistic that there's competition and there are 100 other agents who provide the same services as ours, same level of services as ours. So the only thing that differentiates us from the others is ourselves. So if we keep improving, we keep upgrading the skills, not just that of the team or the staff, but even our upgradation of our skills. And if we can have a diverse portfolio, so we need to diversify more, then I think we should be good. We should be good. Do it. I mean, if freedom is going to be curtailed, then there's not going to be any success. Let's see how it goes. Right now it looks fine, I guess.
It was great
Thank
chatting
you.
with you, and thanks a lot for your time, and wish you all the best.
Thank
and
you.
We just hope that everything just settle down.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure it will. I mean, there's always the good and the bad. So if you're going through a few bad days, you will eventually end up having good days too. So, and the industry is very resilient. They are good fighters. I think the freight forwarders and the customs brokers are damn good fighters with this fire in their belly and always wanting to do so. Even a 70-year-old will be very competitive and will say, I want my company to succeed. So that is one thing which is nice, that we don't get complacent, because we always know that somebody could just pick up our client before we even blink. So we are always there and
On the
it's
toes.
on the toes, and I think it's a damn good industry. So we will do well. I mean, we are in certain aspects, but we will do well in the future also. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.